what to say. Hello. So this is video diary for the end of week 1 of doing the artist journey thingy right there. I have to be honest, I've been very anxious to do that video, and not the good kind of anxious, the bad kind of anxious, where I was like, oh, I didn't finish all the tasks and I didn't do my morning pages today, so I'm very anxious. But that's the whole point, that it's supposed to be fun and not work. But I always tend to turn anything fun into work, anything into a task. Reading needs to be for fun, and now I'm just stressed out because I'm just not done with the book on time, or a Goodreads challenge can make me super anxious. So I think that kind of is a good thing to look into, and I'm glad that this came out, for it to like be explored a bit further on the side, or as a main thing of why do I do that? Why do I turn? I think that's why I kind of was far from my art for the longest time, because I turned my art into a job, into homework, and then I became very depressed, and I didn't want to do it, because who wants to do homework all the time? But that's all I know. That's how I know how to do things, and that was very not good. Anyway, so I kind of like journaled and wrote a bit before the video to make sure I'm on top of some of the tasks, because I did the tasks before when I did it before, so it's kind of like just reviewing if anything changes, because I think that was the lingering thing that was happening in the back of my mind when I was doing this week, is I was like, oh yeah, I did these exercises before, so I'm just gonna dedicate an hour in the weekend to do it. But I never had the time, and that's no excuse, because I literally had the time, but I was fasting and I was tired. And when you're fasting and you're tired, you kind of want to invest your energy into one thing, and I was trying to do that, trying to make food or just finish that one task. And I technically only had today off. I didn't have any other day off, fully at least. But I want to count today's little journaling session before I just started this video as my morning pages, because that's probably what I was gonna do anyway. I was gonna work on some of the tasks, compare it, because I still remember the answers of the tasks from last time I did this first week. So let's do the check-in and see what it has. How many days this week did you do your morning pages? 7 of 7, we always hope. How was the experience for you? So I did it every day except this morning, but I did it today. And I don't usually do it in the morning while fasting, because without coffee I don't have the time. I need more time to sit down and wake up and do it. So what I do is I do it during my lunchtime, because I'm not gonna eat during my lunch break, so I'm just gonna write or read. So I'd rather do that, where I'm just like decluttering. And it was very interesting, because it says to do the morning pages to get the sensor self, which I like to call the coach, to shut it down before it wakes up. But it was very interesting, because it kind of like, in the beginning it wasn't waking up, so I was doing my morning pages during lunchtime and it was okay. But then as I started doing it more, and especially after I did my artist date, it became more awake and became like more pokey of like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. And it turned my tasks into homework. It kind of like felt like, oh no, you're cheating, you're having fun, you can't have fun. You've been resting for too long. Mind you, I've been sick for like 3 weeks. So yeah, I've been resting because I've been sick. So but the coach doesn't know. And I do a lot of internal family system therapy, so I talk to that part, and I tried to like do that when doing my morning pages one time, like, okay, what do you want? First of all, who are you? What age are you at? And then I introduce myself, and then I ask it what it's doing and what it thinks it's doing and what they want. And it was interesting to see that this part just wants to protect me, to save me, but in the only way that it can. And then working on some of the tasks where we look into the enemies in the past and the people who supported us and people who didn't, and the blurbs and all that, it kind of like, you think like the teachers in school are the ones, for example, who kind of put the thought in my head that like art is fun and not homework, and homework is important, and then that became the coach's identity. I wrote a lot about how my dad kind of was very sarcastic of my art, and that kind of affected me a lot. And then my mom was very supportive, but at the same time I can feel that most of the time she wasn't necessarily 100% believing in it, because her system, her the things that influenced her in the past told her that art is not serious and you need to find a stable job. Mind you, I grew up poor, so it makes sense to want to go for the most stable career. Like a doctor, they wanted me to be a doctor, and I had the grades to be a doctor. So the teachers were like, why don't you want to go to something more serious? That was one of the horror stories. I tried to show my music to my parents when I first started writing songs at 11, and they were like, no way you wrote that many songs in a week or something. And I was like, but I did. Doesn't matter if they're good or not, just listen to them. But then I have like some of the nice stories when I wrote the first song ever, and I played it on the keyboard for my parents, and I started dancing in the living room, and that was kind of like the moment that I realized that I wanted to be an artist. So this and that. With my parents, it was more of I understand where they're coming from, especially my mom, especially later on when she started to see how passionate I am about my art. She started supporting me. She started working. She started saving money for my music school. She started helping me find jobs to pay for my music school. So she was adamant on me going to music school and like next to my regular school. So she was supportive of that, despite I can see that her beliefs were getting in sometimes in the way, but she was still supporting me no matter whether she believed in it or not. And I'm forever grateful for that. Yeah, it was interesting experience that my morning pages turned into more of like shaming pages over time. And then it started also to say, well, all your friends in university are like successful right now. What are you doing and all that? And I'm like, interesting. Why are you bringing that up? So it kind of like poked into that. And the last time I did those exercises, I focused mainly on my family and how I grew up, and my teachers, and my guitar teacher, who is like one of the biggest supportive people I've had in my artist journey. Like, he's one of the main people who told me that I'm a songwriter, and I will forever be grateful for that, because I write music. I was encouraged to write music because of him. So he's on my champions list for sure. I kind of poked about my university friends. I had a group of university friends in music school, so we were all musicians. But I started poking at how was it? Was it really healthy? And I started to see how toxic it was. I'm not necessarily in contact with a lot of them right now, so like I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they grew or if they've changed or what's going on. I'm only gonna talk about the experience back then and not what's going on right now. But back then, it was a lot of insecurity. It was a lot of like insecurity-based relationships. These guys, mostly they were guys, and it was a lot of masculine energy, and I should have known, but I wasn't that wise at the time, and I wasn't that in tune with my femininity. I was actually striving to be more hustly and masculine, which is nothing wrong with that, but like I'm not talking about like masculine features or mask presenting. It was more of the energy of it, the hustle, the comparison, the competition. It was so competitive. These guys were competing against each other on every level: money, talent, practice time, school, like because some of them were not in school with me, in the same school. Degrees, how many countries they visited, how many girlfriends they had, how hot their girlfriends were, how much swag it came into the size. Yeah. They're like super competitive. They talk shit about each other behind each other's back. Whenever there's a girl in the group, including myself, they would ask her out, but they expect that the other guys wouldn't do that. But then me and the girls would know that these guys tried all the girls, and they expect us not to communicate, and they expect us not to think that this is weird. So there's a lot of like problems with that, and that energy in a way encouraged each other, maybe for them to like improvise music and play music together and improve. That kind of like was the fuel for them, but for me it was the block, because I was like, this is so competitive, this is very stressful, I don't want to do this, especially knowing that I'm insecure because I came from a background where I didn't have the money to have the time and the practice to be as good as them. And I know they meant well, and I know they wanted to be inviting and have me like practice with them, but I felt so insecure, and I wanted to be good from the start. And I'm pretty sure we're gonna touch on that later, because that's what I remember last time I did it. But I wanted to be at least good enough from the start for me to practice or like improvise with them or jam with them, and I wasn't. So I was very insecure about it, and I never did. And I kind of slowly stopped practicing. One of the horror stories is I was like singing one of my favorite songs from a musical movie called God Help the Girl. And I was singing the lyric, I'm living in a tree. And they made fun of me for that, for the lyric. And I was like, this is one of my favorite songs. Like, it's so pretty. And I love the lyrics. I love the meaning of it. I love the song because it talks about mental illness and that girl's journey. And I really resonated with it. And it kind of hurt me that they were making fun of me for that. And all they cared about is listening to like their rock music. And no offense to classic rock fans, I love classic rock, but they kind of made me hate it for a while, because I'm like, okay, like I get it that you think your music's dope and the music you like is dope, but you can't shit on other people's music. That kind of made me want to shut down and not show my songs to people even more. So besides that, did you do your artist date this week? Yes, I did. I took myself to dinner, and I was very scared at first to go to dinner alone, but I did not care. I was having fun. The waitress was so cool and so nice to me. She complimented my outfit, but I noticed that I'm always looking for something to, I want to look at my phone, or I want to like focus on the music, but I kind of force myself to stop and just look at my surrounding. And the art on the walls was beautiful. It was actually made by like local artists. I never paid attention to the art pieces on the wall. That was beautiful. There was a fireplace, the decoration was beautiful, but I never paid attention to it before. It was the beginning of healing, and my inner artist was very happy. Secondly, this is when my censor and my coach woke up and was like, oh, you need to go home and be productive right now. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And since then, the rest of the week was just fighting with that coach part of myself. And were there any other issues this week you consider significant to your recovery? Describe them. The issue mainly was that I really wanted to be an overachiever, and I put myself under so much pressure to deal with that. Plus I deal with anxiety. Plus I'm dealing with healing my nervous system. Plus I'm dealing with depression, seasonal depression, a lot of stuff. Homesickness, Ramadan, I'm fasting. There's a lot. I'm putting pressure on myself, like, you need to pray more. You need to practice more. You need to do this more. You need to do this more. And I'm like, and then I end up doing nothing. And like today, I just wanted to read and watch TV, and that's what I did. And that's why I forgot to do my morning pages, because I was doing that. And I wanted to bake, and I wanted to like have a calm Sunday. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like that was in a way healing, but because I was so stressed about finishing something, about achieving something, my artist self was kind of like crying in the corner while I was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this fun thing. We're gonna have fun. And nobody has fun in the end. Nobody's enjoying their time. So that's what happened this week. I'm gonna try to be less tense next week, because it says It is recovering a sense of identity, which is going to be very useful. Recovering a sense of safety has been the hardest because I tried to do that before. And I think one of the main sources of a sense of safety right now is my boyfriend. He's amazing. He is super supportive and he believes in me in ways I can't believe I would do to myself. And yeah, I think I'm very grateful to him, to my sister, to my brother, to my mom, for all the help that they do. For my friends who are my biggest fans, they want to listen to my songs the first time before anything else. So I have them like written on little notes that I'm gonna hang everywhere of the quotes they say of that I remember of them saying it. So it's been a good week overall. I'm gonna try to do better with no pressure, and I'm gonna make sure I prioritize my mental health first. So yeah, hopefully next week is better, but I'm feeling much better anyway, and I'll see you guys next week.